everyone. Welcome to the AWS Beyond Cloud series. I'm Ataullah, and I just found something very interesting and fascinating. So I thought I should definitely share it with you. And yeah, the video is just to demonstrate my understanding over AWS and relevant technologies. So without any further ado, let's dive into the video. Let's first visualize what we are gonna do in this, or what we're gonna practice in this video. So what we are going to discuss or practice is the secure copy command, which is SCP used in Linux distributions. So like the scenario is when like if you ever use remote VMs or remote servers and you have a file need to be transferred from your VM to your host machine or vice versa, you'll probably be using the secure copy command. Well, there's one thing to note is that the secure copy command is not ideal for transferring large files. Uh, it's more limited to like transfer configuration files from your remote VM to your host and from your host to your remote VMs. Like they can be configuration files, they can be other logs, right? And security logs or troubleshooting logs. So they depends, but they're not eventually like ideal for transferring larger files. So the first scenario is that we have a virtual machine EC2 launched on our AWS, right? Um, Secondly, we will work on another scenario as well, which I just explored. Um, that is like creating a virtual machine on our own host machine, like using a hypervisor like VMware or VirtualBox, and then using that virtual machine, we will try to transfer the file from our guest VM to our host machine, and like vice versa. So we will do both ways. So let's first explore the AWS created VM, and or we will try to transfer file from the VM to our host, and yeah, vice versa, and then we will eventually move to the second one. So here we are with the on the AWS Management Console. If you're new to it, here you see this is my IAM user I'm logged in with. If you ever like use AWS, you probably know that like it is recommended that you use IAM user instead of the root user. So with limited access, I can still create or launch an instance. Okay, here we go. Okay, first we have this EC2 instance that we need to create. The EC2 is like it's a very core service of AWS. If you have ever studied AWS, there are numerous services by AWS, but EC2 is one of the core service. There are many other, but yeah, EC2 is one of the core service. So what does EC2 actually the purpose of EC2 is to create or like to maintain like servers, different virtual machines, right? That can be used for different purposes. So let's give our EC2 instance a name. Let's say I give it a name like RDB server. Okay, for this EC2 instance, I have to select an AMI. In Amazon, like in AWS terminology, it is called Amazon Machine Image. But if you are familiar with Docker's containerization, you probably know that what is an image. Like they are like pre-configured operating systems with their specifications, right, with their properties. So these are pre-configured images that you can choose anyone depending on your needs, requirements. So let's say I have selected Ubuntu since I'm going to work on Ubuntu. Okay, you gave your name, EC2 a name, you select the AMI, and, which is an image, and then the next part comes where you have to select the instance type. Well, the instance types defines that with what kind of compute resources your server or your application server, your web server, your database server, or or your VM like will be using. So you can select your desired option from here. But since I have a free tier account, so I can like max avail this T2 micro instance type. So I'm going to select T2.micro. After this comes a very important portion, like if you ever like access the server remotely through SSH or an RDP, you must know that what is a key pair. A server which has a private key and a public key. Public key is the one given to the user or anyone who is trying to who will try or who tries to access the server. And there is another key, uh, the public key, yeah, which the server owns. So it is used for encryption whenever you're trying to access the server. So we will create a key, a key pair to access over the same server. Okay, let's give it a name, DB server. Okay, we will create our key here, and it will be downloaded into our downloads folder, and that's it. Then the last part is network settings. Leave it as it is because it's a whole different galaxy of network here in AWS, where it comes to VPC, virtual private cloud, which is your own like customized network which you will establish. But that's for that I'll most probably create another video. Mm, for now, let's keep it the default network settings for our EC2 instance, or we can say for our server. And then the storage, which falls under the free tier account, that is 8 GB max. And then we will simply create or launch our instance. So our instance will be launched in few seconds, and that's the beauty of cloud, right? Like more specifically, it's the beauty of AWS cloud, I would say. So here we are. Our instance has been launched. It will take few more seconds. Yeah, it's actually running. You can check the status here. It is running. So we have our virtual machine, or we can say that we can have our server somewhere in US. Yeah, at some availability zone. Well, availability zone is like it's geographically a subpart of what we say, yeah, region where the data centers of AWS, Amazons are existing. So once we have created our instance or virtual server, we're gonna click it, and then once just remember that if we create a server or VM or AWS, we have multiple ways to connect to that server. So when I press connect, I have different options, right? Um, there is one option. It's like mostly used when you have a Windows machine. You can take an RDP, right? You just have to open the RDP from your host machine and then enter the public IP of that VM. For instance, we have the public IP of our database server, which I just created, is here. So I can simply put it here, and I can then simply connect it using this, using the RDP. So I'm not going into that because my main topic or my main video is going to be on another domain. So the other way of connecting our instance or a server is to use this EC2 instance connect, which is like a bastion host method, where you are directly or privately connected to your server. You just need to come to this tab and press connect. There will be a private session created for you, like in a command, like in terminal faced CLI prompt, right? Right here. So we have our access to our VM here, right? So this is our VM, like the one we have created. All right. So we can access it directly from here. And the other way is using the SSH. Okay, for SSH, I have installed the Git Bash terminal here in my host machine. So there's there's a process to like there's a step to connect to that server from my host machine, right? So like since we wanted to copy a file from our remote server to our host machine, right? This git bash terminal is on my host machine. So let's first create a file on my Ubuntu server, right? Okay, I have just created a test.txt in the temp folder inside my Ubuntu server, which comes under the home directory and obviously which comes under the root directory. So I have created the test.txt, right? This is on my browser actually, right? You can see, so I'm accessing through this web, and now I need to copy that file to my local machine, right? So I don't have anything here in the download folder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm using a very simple and basic command, scp I. Well, the I is used specifically when you're using whenever you use private key to access your server, like whenever there's encryption part, right? Not just the credentials, but also the the key, like the public and private key, like the key pair section. So for that, to specify that we are using a private key to access our server, we add a hyphen I, and then simply you give your key name, which was db server key. I guess that was the name. Yeah, db server key dot pem. .pem is the extension for this. You have to double quote this, and then you have to add an hyphen r, which represents that we have to retrieve the files or deliver the files in another case recursively, which means folder inside the directory, and yeah, in a similar way. Then we have to just simply go back to the AWS, to the SSH client tab, and we have to copy this whole line, right? We have to exclude this part, by the way. We just need to put that here. Okay, here we are. And finally, once we reach this part, we have to add a full colon, right? And we have to give the directory or the file, the location of the file which we are trying to copy and paste it to, or transfer that to our host machine. So we have to, let's say the file was in our home directory under the Ubuntu user inside the temp folder, and the file name was temp.txt. I guess it was test.txt. Let me confirm. It was test.txt. Yeah. So here we are. So the structure of the SCP command is like you give the SCP secure copy, and then the hyphen I in case of a remote VM, and then you give the key pair, the private key name inside it. But just note that the same file, the key, should be in the same directory, right? Like where you were trying to like I mean to say that you should be inside the same folder or directory where your PEM key is lying, right? So I'm inside the downloads, so the key is already in the same folder. So after adding the same path, you have to give the destination. So since we don't have like any, I don't want to paste the file or transfer the file to any other part or folder, I will just add a dot. Well, a dot refers that I want the file to be transferred to the same directory where I am right now. That is, transfer the file from the remote VM to the downloads folder. So let's see if it works. Okay, boom. I guess it just worked. We have to press yes. And let's see if our file has been transferred from our remote VM to our host machine. Here it is. Right, it was empty because I left that empty. So we have transferred successfully a file from our remote VM to our host machine, which is kind of interesting. And like vice versa, we can transfer the file from our host machine to our remote VM, right? So that was the first way to transfer a file, right? To like a file which was hosted on AWS server. And there's another way as well, that is like accessing something, or accessing a file or transferring a file from a server which is hosted on the same machine, on my host machine. Like I have created this on on a hypervisor on a VirtualBox. For this I had to hassle, because yeah, you have to change the network modes first to bridge, because if you are in NAT NAT network mode, your server is probably having a private IP which will not be accessible, so it will obviously not be pingable. So in that case you have to change it to a bridge mode. And obviously once you change it to the bridge mode, it has the same IP of the same, like of the same subnet in which your host is given the IP, right? So let me try here to create mm, MK folder here, and get inside the folder, create a file, file dot text. Okay, so let's just edit this file. Okay, here we go. So now we are going to transfer this file from our uh, VirtualBox hosted Ubuntu server, right, to our host machine. So here we go. We have our Git bash here. We have our VM or our server there, and we are going to paste a similar, or we can going to use a similar SCP secure copy command, right? But it's a little bit different. So let's say I have the file, like I want to, let's do this in another way. Like if I have a file in my on my hosted machine, I mean on my on my host machine, and I want to transfer that to my VM. So how to do that? So let's first create a file here. I want to make a file, let's say jira.txt, and I want this to be transferred to my virtual server, or my what or my VM, right? And so for that I have to enter the path, like just to show you there is nothing. Okay, we have a jira.txt already. Okay, let me remove that. Okay, it's no more there. So we are going to transfer that file jira.txt from our host machine to our remote server. All right, so here we go. We have to type the scp, and now we don't need to use the hyphen I, because we are not transferring a file, and like we are not using a private key for this purpose. So you will just use scp, and then select your directory, and then select where was the file. It was in downloads, right? See downloads, correct? And then you have to select the path that was jira.txt, right? And here comes the important part. You should know, like you have to know that what's the username of your VM, like, and what's the IP, like what's the public IP of your remote VM. So in this case, Ataullah is my username, right? Machine name, and then after the at the rate at symbol, you have to write the public IP of that VM, correct? And just after that, you have to add a full colon as we entered in the while we were transferring the file from AWS to our host machine. Similarly, you have to put a full colon, then add the forward slash, which represents the root directory, and add the full path where do you want to transfer the file. So here we go. We have the command here, SCP secure copy or current directory, then the IP and the user of our remote server, and then the destination where we want the file or the folder to be transferred. Correct? No such file or directory. So where it is, okay, I think we have to first move back. Okay, we are in C users. Okay, now I guess we are in C. Okay, yeah, I have to run the command now because we were on another directory or folder. No such file or directory. Okay, no worries. Okay, do we have downloads? Okay, we don't have a download here, I guess. Okay, I got it. So we have to log in into the users. I have to find the user and then there should be the downloads. Yeah, the download is here. All right. Um, downloads. Okay, now I'm inside the download folder and now I can run my command. Okay, I don't need to add the C and then let's see. It's still not recognizing my path. Okay, let's try C, users, IT, downloads, Jira tags. Okay, still not accepting. What could be the issue here? Okay, there is a spelling mistake. No such file or directory. We have the Jira.txt. Just let me cross check. It's Jira.txt. All right. What's the path? C users, IT, and then downloads. I'm right. Okay, I'm giving the correct path though. IT and then downloads. Okay. Okay, let's try something else. Oh, wait. It's still giving me that no such file or directory. Wait a second. Why not? Like I have lots of files here. Jira. I have what? Jira.txt.txt. Oh my. I have added that was my bad. I actually renamed the file with jira.txt even though that was already a Jira, like that was a text file. Okay, I found the culprit here and here we go back. Instead of the whole path, since I'm already in the download folder, I just need to add a dot and hit enter. What? Hopefully this is gonna work. Okay, perfect. It's asking for the password now. I have to enter the password, which only I know. And boom, here the like the file has been transferred from our remote, like from our host machine, right, from my local PC to like my remote server. So let's verify this. I am in my home directory and then my home in this user Atanla. Let's check this now. See, boom, it's here. gr.txt, the file which I just like transferred from my host machine, from my local machine to my remote server. So I guess what we tried to do has been like achieved. The first way we tried is we tried to create a remote server on AWS. We created the instance and then we tried to transfer the file from remote server to our host. And then we tried to transfer the file from our host machine to a virtual machine or a server that was hosted locally on a VirtualBox or any hypervisor. That could be like VMware also works here. So yeah, we tried the both ways. So this is what we call secure copy command. You might come across this command in your future. So and with that, I would be signing out. Thanks for watching the video. Have a wonderful day or sleep well. Goodbye.